Welcome back to the Small Business Show, where you get to hear the journey, find the challenge, and create solutions. I'm your host, Lori Brooks, and I thank you so much for joining me today. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Today, I have the pleasure of chatting with Roy Vella, a seasoned digital strategist, entrepreneur, and keynote speaker with a track record of leading global teams and driving innovation in fintech, AI, and smart home industries. With pivotal roles at PayPal, RBS, and various startups, Roy has honed his expertise in digital experiences and mobile solutions. Today, he runs a management consultancy advising top digital leaders and enterprises worldwide. Passionate about scaling businesses and fostering impactful partnerships, Roy is here to share his journey, insights, and key lessons learned throughout a dynamic career. Roy, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure, Lori.
It's my pleasure. I'm super excited to dive into your journey. But before we do, I want to rewind the clock just a bit. I want to go back to the days of, say, junior high or high school. Think of a time when an aunt or an uncle or even a mentor at school would have asked you what you want to be when you grow up. Roy, what was your answer to that question back then?
It's a good question. Yeah, I would say I'm still waiting to grow up, and I've never really had a strong perspective on that, mostly because I'm almost the definition of insatiably curious. My wife likes to joke around that I can talk to any scientist pretty impressively for about 15 minutes, and then I'm going to hit a cliff. Because I just love learning. And I'm one of these personalities. There's actually a word for it. I was informed at one point. It's called an epicure. Like, I love to learn just enough about something that I figure I know enough, or enough to get by. And my wife jokes around. I've got my level 1 pilot's license. I got my level 1 skydiving. I've got my level 1 hang gliding. I've got my motorcycle license. You go to scuba diving. I am an explorer, and I love to test out knowledge, and I'm a trier. I'm like, if someone says to me, hey, I got this thing that you've never done, before they finish, I'm like, yeah, let's do that. I've never done that. I want to teach me how to do that. And so I've got this weird, I took glass blowing. I've had, you name it. If there's a weird eclectic thing that I'm like, oh, I don't know anything about that, I'm in. Like, I was EMT in a emergency rescue squad when I was in high school and college. Like, I've done a bunch of, people look at my background, I'm like, what? And when it comes down to it, I'm a deep tech geek. I love the convergence of science, technology, and humanity. And I am eager to learn, which makes me the kind of classic generalist. There's a great book called Range by David Epstein, which is precisely about that. There's two groups. There's the specialists who are just like, I play tennis and that's all I've ever played. And then there's the opposite, which is I played a bunch of sports and I ended up in tennis, right? This kind of thing. And it's a fascinating book, actually, for anyone who feels like they're a generalist. It's a good message. Range matters. Range is good. You can cross-fertilize. You get all sorts of ideas that other people don't get because you have exposure. So that's a long-winded answer to say I didn't really have a dream of being XYZ. I was just, oh, what's that? What's that? It's probably ADD too. Probably a bit of both. But,
I love it. The curiosity is what it is. I think that's a trait of most entrepreneurs. I think we're all just curious and want to keep learning and growing. And I think that's one of those things that kills the corporate world for us in the beginning, because there's so much curiosity and drive, and that's not something that's fostered in the corporate world, realistically. What was it for you that created the stepping stones that landed you with PayPal?
So right out of grad school, I started a fintech company with fellow classmates. And after we sold that company, I got recruited into PayPal by another classmate. And this was the early days of fintech. So it was like, it's the sort of beginning of the scaling of PayPal. And that was also very much the Wild West. Like inside of PayPal, it was just a bunch of really ambitious, aggressive, smart people doing what they thought would be good for the company. Like the biggest deal I did for PayPal at the time, I was too junior to sign the contract. So my VP had to sign the contract. The day of the signing of the contract, he said, okay, so what is this deal about again? Like, I had been working on a deal for a year. And by the way, I couldn't get eBay to announce the deal. So the other company, which was called Payment Tech at the time, they did a press release about the deal, and eBay stock jumped 5% on the announcement. That was the day that I met Meg Whitman for the first time, because she was like, what the hell just happened? What now? Luckily for me, the stock went up, but she was like, I need to know when things are going to move the stock, right? But this was how Wild West it was. Like it was, I knew it was a big deal, and I had been working on it for a long time, and I knew it was significant to both companies, but there was so much going on. There was so much noise that, and literally my phone rang, and Meg's, hi, this is Meg Whitman. I need to hear about this deal. And I was like, oh, hey. Anyway, so early days of the kind of the valley and the explosion of growth and everything. But yeah, that's how it happened.
I thank you for that. And I apologize because I want to rewind. I thought that your first venture was post your leaving PayPal. I didn't realize that your first venture was prior to. So we're going to rewind the clock once again.
Okay. Sure.
I'd love to know, fresh out of school, what was it that drove you to say, okay, I'm starting on my own, fresh out the gate?
Okay, yeah, maybe let me rewind a little bit. So fresh out of the gate, it didn't happen. Fresh out of the gate, I didn't have a particular thing. I was a math major. They gave me two choices. They're like, you're going to be a professor or you're going to be an actuary. And I was like, I'm not doing either of those two things, right? And I only did math because it's split down the middle between philosophy and physics. Like it wasn't, it was way more applied than philosophy, but not quite as applied as physics. It was in that, and it was intellectually challenging, and I enjoyed that. So I came out and I'm like, you know what? I don't know what I want to do when I grow up, if I ever grow up, and I am going to work for a company that works for companies. So literally I interviewed in management consulting, investment banking, and marketing and advertising and this kind of thing. And I ended up in advertising at Leo Burnett Advertising in Chicago.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So that was my first job, and it was exactly as anticipated. I ended up in a bunch of different industries, always working for Leo Burnett, but in different spots in e-commerce, whatever. Then I went to grad school, and it was in grad school. By the way, prior to all that, I had always started businesses with my little brother. We started a driveway paving company.
I love it.
Yeah. So it was just in my bones a little bit to just do that.
There we go.
Yeah.
See that?
Totally. So
you were an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You were just an entrepreneur. It didn't matter how young you were. You had started, and the entrepreneurial bug bit you. And no matter what, that's what took hold throughout the journey. No, that makes so much more sense. I get it.
Yeah. And that's actually what attracted me out to Stanford, because Silicon Valley was exploding, or it wasn't, this was 94. So Silicon Valley was Silicon Valley, but it was the early days. This is pre-internet, right at the cusp of the internet happening. Yeah. And then in business school, I ended up staying for law school. So I did 4 years there. And then upon graduation with somebody, started a company.
Nice. Oh, so that makes more sense. I totally understand.
As you said, I'm not totally, even in Leo Burnett, I ended up in the new business development group. Yeah. And the reason I did was this is actually a story that might resonate with some folks. So I was in media buying and planning for Sony Consumer Electronics. Loved it, had a great time, got promoted to new product development for Miller Brewing. We were doing tasting of if you remember Zima, the clear beer Zima, like Miller was saying, should we compete with Zima? Should we? And so we were testing clear beers and doing different bottles and branding. It was all new product development stuff. And then Miller said, we make beer. We're not making clear beer. And so all of a sudden I was on the beach, meaning not assigned to a particular client. And HR said, we'll look and we'll see where we're going to place you. Keep an eye out. So I was like, I want to go work with these guys. New business development was how the C-suite pitched important businesses. This was early. So I was like a PowerPoint guru. So I went to the new business development team and I was like, hey, you need help? And they're like, yeah, we need help. And so I just started working with them. And I met the CEO, I met the CMO, I met all the muckety mucks, and I was like a deck monkey. I was the one who ran around with the boards and was doing the PowerPoint decks and printing out documents and all that kind of stuff. Right. So even in that, so when you look at my career at Leo Burnett, it was entrepreneurship the whole time. Like everything I did was about where's the opportunity, where's the growth, how can I help? How can I help? And putting your hand up and saying, hey, I'll help you with that. Like, you need help with this? I took on a bunch of pro bono clients on behalf of Burnett, right? Like where I was running, because you get, as a junior person, you get management experience. If I take on this pro bono client, I'm running the project. So that's great. You're running this little business of your own, like inside of, in retrospect, you look back and you go, yeah, it's just entrepreneurship. Sometimes inside, sometimes outside.
No, I definitely have had several entrepreneurs, as I call them, on the show who definitely are managing businesses within businesses. So I totally understand what you mean. And it's outstanding that you had the opportunity to grab so much experience while within a corporate setting. That's an amazing opportunity that a lot of people don't have. So it's outstanding that you took those moments, all those experiences, and then decided, okay, now it's time to start yet another venture of my own. So what do you feel were some of the most difficult steps starting either your first venture or the venture fresh out of school? What do you feel were some of the most difficult things that you encountered?
Yeah, the most difficult thing was we had raised a friend and family round for that company. It was called Net Abacus at the time. And we were doing online accounting. It was QuickBooks. It was QuickBooks Online about 5 years before QuickBooks went online, which was about 5 years early. But anyway, but that was the proposition. Like small and medium-sized businesses should be using the web to do their accounting, and we can do it. This was at the time, it was called ASP, an application service provider, which then became SaaS and cloud and all the other stuff. This is early days. The hardest part was we were raising venture capital and we had 15 million committed coming in. And that is April of 2000, which people old enough will go, oh, that's when the market turned. I'm like, yes, like literally 2 weeks before the close, the VC said, we're going to have to pause. Things are moving dramatically. We're not sure. And they literally pulled the funding. And that left us with about 3 weeks of burn left for the company. We had about 32 employees. And that's where my law degree came in handy. So I said, let's do, and it was entitled the Employee Compensation Deferral Program. So we said to our team, look, if you're willing to defer pay when we sell the company, we're not going to raise now. There's no way. We had 15 million coming in. The due diligence was done. Like, we're not going to be able to raise in the next 3 weeks. So if you delay your compensation, we'll give you a 50% bonus when we sell the company. 99% of the employees took a 95% deferral, which made our burn go from 3 weeks to 6 months. And then we went out to the market we went to about 30 companies and said, we're on the block, we're selling, got into 5 serious conversations and 3 offers, and we're able to sell the company. And the way we were able to sell the company primarily was people said, wait a minute, explain this employee compensation deferral thing again. And resoundingly, people were like, wow, your team like really wants to stay together. And we're like, yeah, it's a phenomenal team. We're in flow. Like we're delivering. And we were just about, so I was running marketing at that point, and we were just about to rebrand from Net Abacus to Rivio. And the whole thing was Rivio Workflows. The company that bought us took that brand. So the acquisition looked like an acquisition, but it also was our brand that became the prominent one, which was fun. But yeah, but that was a stressful, and by the way, as co-founders, we didn't take any money. We froze our payment, and it all worked out. And no, obviously luck has a lot to do with it, but we were able to make good on the 50% bonus on the deferred payment, and became part of Rivio, which was amazing. A stressful time, but
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet it sounds stressful, but I love the creative solution that you guys came up with. So I'd love for you to share a bit about where the creativity behind the solution derived, how, of course, the team obviously was very tight and wanted to move forward together. But I'm curious if you could speak a bit about the dynamics of the team, how you fostered that sort of a team building opportunity. So, and also the drive. What was it that carried you through that moment to then move forward and push through the sale and move on to continue in entrepreneurship and build out new ventures? So
sure. Yeah, you happen to use a word that is part of my ethos for my current company and has been since I first kind of got exposure, which is Drive by Daniel Pink, right? And there's 3 legs to that. He's autonomy, mastery, and purpose. People having the autonomy to decide how they spend their day, to do what they need to do, having belief in their own mastery to deliver high quality and efficiently and effectively, and purpose, that this shared objective that we agree and we're all aligned in what we're trying to do. And my startup was pre that book, but I think it was part of our inherent ethos about the way we treated people. We hired really smart, really hardworking people who we enjoyed being around. Like nobody at the time was like, oh, I gotta go to work. No, like people were hopping out of bed, and the interactions were fun and creative and problem solving. And also I have a management approach, which I am very clear with people. I'm like, look, beware of what you enjoy in front of me, because I'm going to give you more of that. And the stuff that you suffer with, I'm going to give to him because he loves it. Like life is too short to be like, oh, I got to go to work. Like you should be enjoying what you're doing. And the more you enjoy it, the more productive you're going to be, the more prolific you're going to be. Everything is better if you enjoy doing what you're doing. And the reality is we're all different. So the stuff you don't, and by the way, strong correlation between I enjoy it and I'm good at it. Very few people enjoy shit they're bad at, and vice versa. Very few people suffer on stuff that they're bad at, they're good at. So it all correlates. So just go to your quadrant, do the stuff you enjoy and you're good at, and the stuff you're not, they love it. And so that helps, right? That helps that people, and that, look, I'm not saying that there are parts of work that people that you don't have, you have to do your expense reports. I'm sorry, that's how you get reimbursed. But at a certain point, maybe not. At a certain point, we get to a scale where we're like, you know what? This person loves expense reports. They're doing all the expense reports for everybody because it's a waste of your time. I want you out selling, or I want you creating, or I want you coding. But in the startup phase, there's going to be stuff you got to do. I'm sorry. But the more, as companies grow and evolve, the more you get people into their quadrant, more often than not, everybody wins. So yeah, so I'd say, and that is a foundation of sort of autonomy, mastery, purpose. Like Drive comes out of that reality that you have the autonomy to display your mastery, and we're all aligned on shared purpose.
I love that. Absolutely love that. It's really focusing on the human aspect of hiring humans. Shocking, huh?
And it comes down to, I have 2 favorite quotes, and one is exactly this, which is the journey is the reward. There's no, if you think that you should suffer for a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, you might get hit by a bus tomorrow. Was that worth it? Make sure that the journey is rewarding. And again, there'll be parts that you don't like. That's true. But on the 80-20, you better hope that 80% you're enjoying.
Definitely. Yeah. It's not worth it if you're not. I'll put it that way. This type of a journey, if you're not enjoying at least, like you said, 80% of it, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. There's so much that's involved, and life is too short. You're right. So if you're not enjoying the journey, at least 80% of it, you should probably rethink it. But
and I guarantee you're not adding the value you think you're adding. That's the other part. If it's the 80-20 opposite,
yes,
I guarantee you're not adding as much value as you could doing things you're good at and enjoy.
Right. No, definitely. So you have an amazing team built from the foundation up. You pay attention to the human aspects of your team, which is why the team was so amazing at the exit there for you. So that is outstanding. What do you feel really helped you pull through that moment? Was it mindset? Was it the team that you were surrounded by? What do you feel like helped you?
Yeah, I definitely think mindset's essential, no question. I think it's also the entrepreneurial thing. Like if there's one thing that I say is 100% clear with all entrepreneurs who enjoy being an entrepreneur, it's creative problem solving. Like that's fundamentally what the reason, again, joking around with my wife, I'm a junkie. Like I am. Like I love the startup thing, mentor, advisor, board member, angel, because I love the creative problem solving. Like there's challenges that you face, and figuring out how to get around them, that's the fun for me, right? Like that. And I think that is the essential of the entrepreneurial mindset, is that the barriers and the obstacles aren't detrimental. That's the game. If it was a flat field and there wasn't any, you'd be like, you might as well go work in corporate, right? Like, just I have been described as a machete guy. And people go, what? And I'm like, okay, so if there's a road and you want it wider, I can help with that. If there's a road that needs to be fixed, sure. If there's a path and you want to turn it into a road, okay, getting closer. But frankly, if it's a jungle and it's unclear where the road should be, that's what I do. Like, I have a very sharp machete. I don't mind the mosquitoes. I don't mind the humidity. I don't mind the fact that there's no path. Like, hack, I like to and I'm good at, I think we should turn right here. I think there's water ahead. Like, doing that, love it. Love it. I'm a machete guy. Once, okay, we've hacked a path. Now we've got some people walking down the path. Now it's starting to get pounded down. It's pretty clear we should pave this part. Can I do that? Sure. But it's more valuable to put me with my machete on to what's next, right? That's the ethos. And the truth is, how you describe the jungle differs. So often I'll find myself in a big company in the new market. So it's not the business proposition that is the jungle, but it's the fact that we're opening up a new geography. Great. Like, this is my point. Like, how you define what the jungle is differs at different points in time in life and whatever. But I enjoy the fact that there are unanswered questions and unknown challenges. And you wake up going, I don't know what's going to happen today. Like, that is kind of entrepreneurship for me, creative problem solving.
Absolutely love it. And that was very apparent in that solution there. So I appreciate the share of that story and the journey. Tell us where you are today. What are you doing now? And what is next for Roy?
Yeah. It's funny you use the word next, because my current company is called Next Collabs. And in brief, we are solving the 2023 problem. So everybody got the memo. The person with AI is going to outpace the person without AI. And that left a lot of mid-market companies saying, I don't like the sound of that. Like, we're not using AI. So how do we fix that? So a collab is a methodology. It's an approach, a practice of taking remote humans, local humans, and AI and collaborating, as it alludes to, but it's more about the lab part, right? It's a place of experimentation and iteration and practice, right? I tell people, I can teach you football and you can stay in the stands, but if you come out here on the field, much more effective. So are we consultants? Yes, but we're more like coaches. I am not going to give you something to read. I'm going to show you how to get it done and how do you leverage the value of this AI moment, which is incredible. If LLMs get no better than they were yesterday, everything has changed. Like, it's a dramatic shift in the knowledge economy. If your day job involves words and images, you should be using AI. And if you're not, I concur with the sentiment. Like, you're going to fall behind. The person with AI is clearly going to outpace the person without, because it's a time compression machine. You can just do so much more in so much quicker. Yeah,
it's just a matter of implementation and adoption, and that's what you're helping people do. And I absolutely love that. So I was excited to have you on and excited to hear where you are with Next Labs, and that's why I said it the way I said it, to be honest. So it was, it was my segue into you.
That was a good segue. Yeah,
I tried.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's interesting times, because also I think people deeply misunderstand the tool. For two simple reasons. One, horrible UX. We gave people an empty text box, forgot that they have decades of query response training. So what did they do? They asked it a straightforward question and they got the wrong answer. And they're like, it's not very good, which is the second problem. Horrible name. Artificial sounds fake, not real, insubstantial. And intelligence implies thoughtfulness and correctness. So when it gave the wrong answer, people are like, oh, it's not so smart. Look at the answer. But the truth is, LLMs are augmented imagination. They expand the possibility set. But I have a lot of conversations with people like, oh, we tried it and it wasn't very good. And I'm like, yeah, the metaphor that I think is most appropriate is, we've been chopping wood with axes for forever. Now I hand people a chainsaw and they swing it at the tree and they're like, it's not a very good axe. And I'm like, agreed. It's not a very good axe. But let me show you how to turn it on. And that's the epiphany. People are like, oh, okay. Same objective, but a completely different tool. And that's the misunderstanding that we're trying to correct and show people how to actually use it. And once they get it, they're like, not using axes anymore. This is awesome. you know? Yeah. So
I understand. No, I totally know what you mean, from family to friends to clients, as you go through these conversations and really show them this is the way to actually implement it through the day. The changes are vast and it's shocking and it's exciting to see the
it is.
changes that are coming. So
Yeah.
I
Totally.
personally am very excited about AI and tech. I know there's a lot of people that are fearful, but I think the future is we are at the very tip of the iceberg at
And I
point
also tell
as
people tasks, not jobs. So we say it's two-pronged. It's augmentation at the top, makes you more
hmm
productive, effective, prolific, and it's
hmm
automation at the bottom. Anything that we used to call busy work,
hmm
that goes to the machine. We say it's a humanizing moment. We're actually going to give the human work to the humans, the machine work to the machines. And that's, in fact, I can't believe I didn't say it, but our mission statement is amplify human potential. And that's what we're doing, like using AI to amplify the potential of humanity.
I absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. Well, that's why we connected. That
Yes.
literally is why we connected. I could see that our minds were thinking very much so alike, and I couldn't wait to have you on and to
Thank
chat
you.
and to hear your journey. So I thank you, thank you. If you have the ability to say, go back to early days, say pre-PayPal. Say we gave you a time machine and you had
Sure.
the chance to go back pre-PayPal and tell yourself just one thing on the journey. Right. What do you think that would be?
Oh, that's easy. Invest in Apple.
I love it. Yes, that's it. That's a good one.
That's easy.
And as long
Brainer.
as I've been doing the show, that is the first time somebody said that one. That's hilarious, Roy. I appreciate that one. That's a good one. Yes. Why would we not? Oh
I'm like, if
goodness.
I have only one thing I'm allowed to say, I know it might not look so now, but boy, oh boy.
Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it.
No, I
Oh
guess I would
goodness.
end with my other favorite quote, which I alluded to earlier, which is I think the English language is funny. We say two things. We say make time and we say find time.
Mm,
And if there's one realization I've had over life, is that we are time producers. You
mhm.
make time for whatever you think is important and you value and you want to do. When someone says to me, I can't seem to find the time to do something, I'm like, you just don't want to
You
do it.
don't know.
Just admit, just embrace that there's no time to be found. If you want time, you will make it.
Find it.
You know,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think that is almost an essential lesson for almost everything, right? There's no
Mhm.
such thing as, oh, I just can't seem to find the time to whatever it is, work out or walk the dog or whatever it is, you don't want to do it. If you want to do it, you'll make time for it. And I just
Definitely.
love that
No,
subtlety
agreed.
of English. I'm like,
Mhm.
we're time producers, of course.
Agreed. We are
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
agreed. So
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Roy, you're hilarious. I'd love to know. The show's really designed to help the viewers come up with an idea for a new business in an industry that they're probably not thinking of prior to checking out the episode.
Sure.
So you're in an industry that's rather new, really new. AI adoption this is the infancy of it.
Totally.
So there's a lot of changes that are coming down the line. I'm curious from your perspective, if you could change one thing at all by just waving a magic wand in the industry, which I guess AI in some ways feels like a magic wand, but if you had a real one and could change anything at all, what would you change right now? And how do you feel like it would affect either the mass adoption or what would you change? I'm curious.
Hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting question. Huh. Yeah. So for me, I think you alluded to it already. Like AI is a bit of a magic wand already,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
So when I say the UX problem and I say people treat it like a search engine, the crazy thing for me is we almost went back to the command line.
Yeah.
Like the computer's pre-GUI, like literally
Yeah.
user interface that we gave people. We're like, here's DOS. I know you've been
That's a
using
great
Windows for
analogy.
forever, but here's DOS, right? And that's so the magic wand is that people should really treat that if they're not using AI already, they should start tomorrow, because the top models on the planet are available for free for you to interact with in every and any regard. And the magic wand, I would say, is that I wish everyone knew that you can tell AI that two things need to happen to extract value from AI. First, tell it who you are. Here's my background, my education, my role at the moment, our company site, some PDFs, some competitors that do things. Tell it as much about you as possible. And then tell it who you want it to be. In this conversation, I want you to be my client in this market with this many employees facing these challenges, trying to achieve these objectives. Like context, the secret sauce of AI is context, not content. It is about setting because you and I auto calibrate. We look at each other, we hear each other's words, vocabulary, we see profiles. If I was super young or super old or didn't speak English as a native speaker or what, like we're constantly calibrating our interactions to each other. AI can't do that. AI has no idea who it's, so it meets you at the mean. It treats you like you have an IQ of 100 and it acts like it has an IQ of 100. But that's completely like, so the secret sauce of AI, the magic wand, is tell it the truth, tell it who you are, tell it who you want it to be. And it's, when you witness it, it's miraculous. You can go up to ChatGPT and say, I have a PhD in particle astrophysics, and I want to discuss quantum mechanics, and you're Einstein. And ChatGPT's, sure.
Let's go.
That conversation you and I might not follow, but ChatGPT can have it. It'll meet you right there as Einstein discussing with someone who really like, and so this is the thing. So for instance, when you're talking about entrepreneurs trying to think about what's next, I'm like, you have all of human knowledge. That's
literally
like in a conversation, like you can, and the more context you dump into it, the better it will get. One of my favorite things, one of my colleagues, no matter what comes out, he always types in 3 words, tell me more.
Yes.
And it's a miracle.
I love it. Yeah.
Because this is the other crazy part. Like when we're in a conversation, we know when to pause and stop and speak and listen. And you can ask AI a question and it could give you 10 pages, but it doesn't, because we know that the interface, so it limits itself. It gives you what it thinks is most pertinent for what you're asking. But if you say, tell me more, it says,
you know what I do? I type, please continue. That's my standard. That's my standard phrase. Please continue. But my other favorite piece of OpenAI is the ability to build out the GPTs, the individual custom ones, because I have so many different bots now for so many different pieces and so many different profiles. And that's another piece that's just amazing about tech. So definitely making sure that the context is there and making sure that people understand that aspect is definitely a good one.
But you can't break it. There's no, you're unable.
Just go have fun playing. Literally.
Not to go off the rails, but we are 3 to 5 years out from each of us having a personal AI that sees what we see, hears what we hear. Yes. And I'm able to say, hey, Joe, because that's what I named mine. Who's that French guy I talked to? We talked about his daughter. He brought up that book. That's enough for Joe to go, yeah, you spoke to Pierre on August 6th.
Yeah.
He's French, he's Belgian, not French. I see why you would think he's French, but the book is this. Would you like me to buy it? Like just extended RAM.
CRM
on all of our interactions.
Steroids. Yeah.
It's going to be nuts.
You can do that now.
Well, I mean, so it's probably going to be in glasses that literally, and it's just, it's going to be insane. Like you're going to be opting in. Joe's going to see me join a new company and say, hey, I see you just joined XYZ. Would you like me to opt in? Yes, please opt in. You and Lori live in Boston. You and Bob love to snowboard. You and Sarah, like it's just going to start connecting the dots. It's going to be, and it's going to go retroactive to your alma maters and your groups and your churches and your clubs and all the, and then the magic happens. One day, Joe says to me, without me saying anything, A fellow alum just posted a job that's perfect for you. I don't know the alum. I wasn't looking for a job. It's
Hmm.
like a clearing network. It's just, I think we're right on the cusp of just magic times.
I agree. I agree very much so.
Wow. Yeah,
So I guess we don't need the magic wand as stated. I think it is a bit of a magic wand itself. So we'll see
yeah.
what comes of it.
We will. We will. Totally. Yeah.
Roy, you've been outstanding. I have really enjoyed this
Me too.
conversation.
Me too.
So I definitely hope that we'll have you back in the future as you
Sure.
proceed throughout your journey. But please share the best way for our viewers to find you.
Yeah, I'm blessed with a very unique name. So Roy Vella at anything gets to me, like LinkedIn, Roy Vella, or Roy Vella at Gmail, or yeah, there's a graphic designer, Roy Vella in Florida. That's not me. That's the only other one that I'm aware of, other than my father. You might find my father, but I doubt it. Like, if you just take the space
Love
out
it.
of my name, and I'm easy to find.
Excellent. Roy Vella, I will be sure to include links to your LinkedIn and your
Sure.
website in the show notes page. I thank you. Thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure, Lori.
My pleasure.
Thank you.